In this video, we explore the process of calculating the server utilization time. Hello, I'm Jagan from Growth Data. I am posting this video to share my knowledge in SQL with you. If this assists you in your interview preparation anyways, I'll be happy. Let's see the data set and we can talk about the question in detail. So we are given a table server. Let's create that. So this table got a server ID, the status time and the session status. The session status will have start and stop. So what this data set is all about is, for every server, for example, server 1, the first record is the when the server got started. So it's on April 13th, April 30 at 3:05, the server got started. And on the same day at 11:10, the server got stopped. So the time utilization is from 3:15 to 11:10. So what they're asking to do is find the total server utilization time. That means for every start and stop of that server utilization, get that time and then see how many days the server has been utilized, right? So for this start and stop, you find the time difference, and for this start and stop, you find the time difference, and you add all the time the server is utilized and then convert that to a day, and whichever the days completed. For example, it's like 4.5 days. That means you say it's a 4 days the server has been utilized, right? The completed day we have to report. So the assumption here is when the server got started, the next entry for the same server should be a stop. There should not be another start for the same server, because when you start the server, you can't start it again, right? You have to stop it and then you have to start it. So that is the main assumption we have. So for this, it starts at 3:05, it ends at 11:10. The same way for next one, 4:20, it starts at 27 and ends at 1:41. So the start and the end are follows. That is the main assumption we are going to have for this data set. Okay, now let's comment this out. Now what we have to do is, we have to find for this start record, what is the corresponding stop record. If you get that corresponding stop record, then you find the time difference between the start and the stop, and then you can aggregate for the whole server. Let's start with our first process, which is the self join. Approach 1, we talk about self join. Self join is nothing but you join the same table with that table. That means we select from the server's table, you can say this is a start, inner join the server's table, which is going to be the end. So we do the same table, we are connecting together. Okay, so the server's table is here, and we have to get the start and stop as the same record. So what are you going to do? On this end server table, server ID should be equal to the start server ID, right? And the start dot the status, right? Session status should be start equal to start. Same way, the end table session status should be stop. So in that way, we can just get start in one table and stop in another table. And then we are going to say the end dot the status time, right? That should be greater than the start dot status time. So now we just consider only for the server 1. Okay, we have 4 records, right? We just say and start dot server ID equal to 1. So for this, what I will do is get me the s dot server ID, s dot status time, and then I say e dot the stop tables, e dot status time. So these are 3 main things I need. And then if you want to check on the flag which one it's going to get, I can just say session status. We can just make the header small so we can see the output. So if I run this for this record 1, we have the SS as start, right? And if you want to bring in the end part, e dot session underscore status as es. Hopefully don't break in the next record. Okay. So the S is going to be the start and the E is going to be the stop. And if you see this record, April 13th, 3:15, right? April 13th, 3:15. The end record is 11:10, 11:10:31. We got it. And for the next one, we got 4:20 and we have 4:20, 1:41, the end. And then 4:13, 3:5. Okay. So this one 4:13, it got two records. So this is one stop and this is one stop, right? So because the stop time, both the stop times are greater than the start time. So I got this two records. So how will I get the latest one? So I need only this, right? I need only this record. So how will I get that? So for that, what I'm going to do is, so instead of getting the session, the status time for the end, I just get the minimum of the status time as status time. And then we can have this status. This is from the E table. So we can make it as minimum of E time to make sure the aggregation works. Okay. So now we have to group by 1, 2, and 4. Group by 1, 2, and 4. So now if you see, you got two records. Let's check the data. So we have April 13, 3:5. The stop is 11:10. So 3:5 stop is 11:10. And the next one is 4:20, 0:27. The stop time is 1:41. So 4:20, 0:27. Stop time is 1:41. Now you got the exact match. We removed the second connection using that minimum function, right? Okay. Now you got all these records in a single row, right? We got the start time and we got the stop time. Now we can use this as a CTE table. You can say with sequence data as, we can take this here and then I say select. How will I find the time difference? I can just say status time. Oops. So status time here minus, oh, we have two status time. You can say end time, status, start time. Instead of end, we can say stop. So this is a stop time, this is a start time. So let's get the start time and then stop time from the sequence data, the CTE table, right? So now I want to get the difference between the start and stop. So if it's a date, I can use the date difference, but this is a timestamp. So I will say timestamp difference. It should be in seconds. And then it starts with status start time, which is the smallest one, and then go with the status stop time as the total uptime. So we are supposed to give total uptime in seconds, but we have to give it in days. That we'll do it later. So it's giving an error, unknown column yes dot. Okay, we have alias name. So we say unknown column yes dot field list. We are having some yes dot status time, status start time. E dot status time. So we have status start time, status stop time. Let's see if the CT table works fine. Okay, so here is the problem, s dot status start time. Okay, so we just give the alias name, right? So status time is not status start time. So we say as status start time. So now if you try this table, it works. So we bring back the CT table. Now if you run it, I have the start time 3:05 and the end time is 11:10. So the time difference is 29,000 seconds. So how will I convert that to hours? So I can just divide by 60 into 60 is going to be an hour. So let's see, it's 8 hours and this is an 1 hour. So this is an hour basis, but we have to bring in the days. So we can just add one more, 24. So this will bring me the days, 0.3 days and 0.05. So I have a filter here to get only the server one. I remove this filter and I run this. So it will bring me for all the start and stop. It gives me the total uptime. So I want only the total uptime, don't want the start and stop breaks. So I take this, I'll simply say, get me the sum of all this, which is going to be 1.5097 days. So I have to bring in only the completed days, right? So what should I do? I can use the function floor, which will bring me the last whole number this past. So it brings me 1. So what I did, I first did a self join for one table for the start and another table for the stop. The filter will define that start and stop. How will I connect this to? Use the server ID, and then I say the end or the stop sessions status time should be greater than the start session status time, right? The start and then comes the stop. So the stop time should be greater than the start. Since we get duplicates, because for one start there are more than one stops after that, right? So which one is relevant to the start is the first one, which is going to be the minimum of all this. So if I have two, like this is one stop, this is one stop, how will I get the first one after this? Just get the minimum of the time. So I will get this. So this minimum will help me get the first stop after the start, and then I get the time difference. Since it's a timestamp, I use the timestamp difference. On seconds, I'll get the difference between the start and stop. To convert that to days, I just divide by 60 into 60 to bring for an hour, and then into 24 to bring the day. So we bring into the days, and then since they asked only the completed days, I just use the floor function to bring in the completed days. So this is the power of self join. So how will I do that in a Windows function? So these kind of scenarios, Windows function will be more helpful than the self join. Let's see how to do the Windows function. So let's start with our row number. Okay. So let's go here and we start with, we just say select can say the server ID, the status time, the session status from the servers. So here I'm going to bring in the Windows function called row number. So this should be for every server, right? Partitioned by the server ID. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a partition for every start and stop. And then the status part. Session status. And then after partition, it's ordered by. I can just bring it to the next line so you can see it's simple. And the order by is going to be on the server and then the timestamp. What is that? Status time. So the partition is going to be for every server, the start should be in one partition, the stop should be in another partition. So that's what I'm trying here. And then I give that as a row number from this. Let's see how it goes. So for this data, I have the start for 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So let me order in a different way. I can just say order by, where is it? Okay. So I just say order by the server ID, which is the 1, and then the row number. For each server, you go with the row number order. So this will give me a clear data. So if you see this, I have a stop and start. Okay, I can order 3 also. Make it 3. So I have a start in the beginning and stop after that. So I have the continuous record for start and stop. If I go here, so 3, 5 is the first one and 11, 10 is the second one. So 3, 5 and 11, 10 will have the row number as 1. If you see the 0, 27 and 141, 0, 27, 141, the row number is 2. Then we reset for the server 3. For server 3, it's 1629 and 1641. So 1629 and 1641 have the row number 1. The next one is 2316, 149. So 2316, 149. So the row numbers are grouped based on the start and stop. So this is going to be so simple for me. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create this as the CT table, how I did it before. I don't need the order by because I'm not displaying it anywhere. I'm going to do a self join here, how I did on this part, right? The server into this, I'm going to do the same thing. Select from the sequence data. So this one is going to be the start part. Inner join, the same thing, which is going to be the stop, which is the end part on. So here what I did, the server ID equal to server ID, and then we have start and stop, and then we had the timestamp, right? So same thing, I'm going to say the server ID equal to server ID, the start flag should be the start, and the end flag should be the stop. And then instead of the timestamp, I'm going to say E dot row number is equal to the S dot row number. So if I give that, then this first one, which is a start, is going to combine with the stop because the row number is the same, right? That's why I bring in the row number equal to row number. I can bring it on top. It might be more readable. Okay. So you can always give the joins in the first and then you hard-coded values at the end so that it will be easy to read. So in that way, I select the start dot server ID, and then you can say status time, and the e dot status time. If you want to find the flag, the session status, yes dot session status. Let's finish with this. Let's run it. So if you see this, for one, we got two records, the 3, 5 and 11, 10, which is what the required data is, 3, 5 and 11, 10, and then 27 and 141. 27 and 141. So this is what we looked for. So we have the required data. So what we did before, we used the floor function, sum of all this as total uptime. I am completely removing all these columns. I'm going to calculate this as uptime. So if I run this, so do you have, okay, the column names are changed, right? So status time, we just say yes dot status time, and the stop time is e dot status time. So we get the start and the stop, and then we do the calculation. It gives me the required data, total uptime. So this looks a little bit simpler, right? I can validate the data so easily if I bring in the row number, and then I can take both the tables and do a self join. But if you can do the partition only by the server ID, then the row number should be 1 and 2. So you have to combine. If it's the start is 1, then the stop should be plus 1. So you can do that way also. So this is one way of representing it. You can try only partition by the session ID and the status, and then when you do the self join, you make sure the n dot row number equal to s dot row number plus 1. I can just show you the initial part of it, and then you can build on top of it. So instead of saying partition by server ID and session ID, you simply say server ID, order by server ID and status. So if you run this, you are going to have the data like the first one is 3, 5, start is 1, and the stop is going to be 2. And the start is going to be 3, and the stop is going to be 4. So when you build a CTE table, you can just say this, and the condition is going to be similar. Only thing is, you just say the server ID equal to server ID and the row number equal to row number plus 1. So when you run this, you get this answer. You can explore more into this SQL. I'm not explaining in detail, but only difference is we change the partition to server ID, right? So the row number is not going to be same. It's going to be a sequence 1, 2, and then 3, 4, and then 5, 6. The odd is going to be start. The even is going to be stop. Okay. So this is the row number part. Let's comment this out. Now the third part, which is the lead and lag function, right? So lag will find the previous record, lead is going to find the next record. Even that is going to be a simpler option. Let's see how to do that. We can create the same thing with the Windows function here. Instead of row number, I will just say lead. The partition is going to be the server ID and the order by server ID and status time. In this way, you can get the required data, the status time, right? You can get the status time and say how many records you have to skip. So go for the next record. So lead says you go with the same server ID and then the order status, and then you get the lead function for the next status time, right? So if it's going to be the first record, it will go to the next record and get the status time. If it's going to be this, it will get the other record. The only problem is it's going to consider for every record. For start, it will get a stop. For the stop, it will get the start. Let's have the session status and then just run it and I'll show you. So if you see this, for one, we are supposed to have 2 records, right? So what happens here? Let's go up. So if you see 3, 5, supposed to get 11, 10, right? So 3, 5, we get 11, 10. It works fine. But even the stop record, right? The second record for 11, 10, it brings in 0, 27. So 11, 10, it brings in 0, 27. So to stop this record, we don't want the stop record, right? Because we need start and the corresponding stop. The fourth record is stop. We don't have the next record for the same server. The 141, we don't have a next record, so it shows up as null. So what I'm going to do, I have to bring in an additional filter for this. I'm going to say with the sequence data as the CT table. When I select this, I will say select from the sequence data where the session status we are going to consider only start. So in that way, I will bring in only the start record. If you see for the one, you have only the start record and the corresponding stop records timestamp. Now it's simple. Now it's in single row. How I did that in the previous records, right? I can use the same part of it. Let's take the total time thing. I can put it here. So the status is going to be the same table. So you don't have to. So this one you can say end timestamp. It's not a row number, right? So you can say status end time. So this one is status start time. So it's in same row, so we don't have to bring in the alias name. So this is the status start time, and then this is the status end time, and we have the record here. So we got the total timestamp here. So row number wise, we got the row number, we did the self join. But when you do a lead function, you can bring in the stop records timestamp into the same record. So you don't have to do a self join. You can bring in directly that data CTE table and you can find the difference. So out of these 3, the self join and then the row number and the lead function, I prefer the lead function because we just have to create the CTE table once and use that CTE table down there once. So it's easy to go with it. So you can try all these 3 and then you can see which one is comfortable for you. Okay, so this is for the ideal scenario, right? So what happens if there is a small twist in the data? So for example, you go with, when you copy this data. So here we said the start and stop time follows properly, right? So once it starts, it follows with the stop. So what if there is a record which starts on the same like 1629 and the next one is 2316 on April 4th, both on April 4th. But the stop is on the next day. So we have a junk record. So the first start starts on April 4th, 1629. Second start on April 4th, 2360. The same day it have 2 records for start. But I don't have a stop. The first start don't have a stop till April 5th. That means it stops after the second start. So this is a not an ideal scenario because the server starts, it has to stop and then go for the start, right? But there might be cases that the data might be corrupted or it might not have received the signal properly. So we got a junk data. So we have 2 starts on April 4th and the stops are in April 5th. So how will I handle this? So if you go with the self join, the first scenario we tried, Okay, where is it? We go with this. Let's see what happens here. So let's comment this out. So here, if I run this, we see this 3, right, which has the issue. So 3 is the issue, like 1629 and 2316. So 1629 and 2316. If you see this, the stop is going to be the same time, because for this start, the minimum of time is going to be this stop. And for this start also, the minimum of timestamp is going to be this one. So we don't consider the second one. So the data is not going to be right. So the ideal scenario is if you go with the row number. I'm not going to use the self join in this scenario, but if I use the row number is here, let's copy this. So row number, what I did, I just did a start for one and stop for another, right? The partition based on this. So in this scenario, if you go here, if you go with 3, the start and the stop is going to be the first one. Where is it? 3, 3, stop is here. Okay, we have to do the order by to see it right. You say order by the server ID, and then 4 is the row number, and then 3 is the status. Okay, so now if you see this finished in, okay, I think there is some data. What is happening here? Have you commented anything? Okay, let's do this again. Truncate the data and then we try it. Okay, so here if you see for 3, the start is 1629 and the first stop is 115. The start is 1629, the next stop is 115. It works. The next one is 2316 on the same day, April 4th, and then 149. So 2316, 149, both have the same rows. So in this scenario, you can see the first start and the first stop, second start and the second stop. So in this SQL, it will identify the start and then stop, because we are partition the start as a separate one and stop at the separate one. So this is why I used the session status, right? So the previous one I said, without using the session status, you can do the row number and then you can say row number equal to row number plus 1. So in this scenario, right? So I did purposely use this session status only because if there is any data like this, then you can address that. But this should not be the right data. So you have to work on cleaning the data rather than doing the SQL part of it. If you want to see all this code, then you can go to the YouTube channel, Grow with Data. The playlist, this is going to be a SQL interview question, the first one. So if you go here, in the description part, you have the GitHub link. You click on the link, it will take you to the code base. So this one is going to be the 36th video, and you can see the data here, and you have the first self join, and then you are using the Windows function, and third you are using the lead function. So you have all the code here. If you want to join the WhatsApp channel, you have a link here. You can use this and join the Growth Data WhatsApp channel. Hope you like this video, and thanks for watching.